Today on the show, we're talking about a dating app designed specifically for single parents, flamingos, and the often scary reality of the fact that we're all getting older. Well, hello everybody, Anthony here. Welcome back to another juicy episode of the Single Parents Podcast. This is the podcast for anybody whose life may have turned out a little less than traditional. Glad to have you all here with us. Before we jump into that good, a few things I'd like to ask you to do. Number one, if you'd be so kind, maybe consider sharing the podcast with a friend, with a family member, with somebody you meet on one of these dating apps. That'd be pretty cool. Help spread the podcast around so we can build the voices that make up this community and just continue to grow. Number two, if you think the podcast deserves this, let's just be real and honest. If you think the podcast is legit, then maybe consider rating the show 5 stars, highest rating possible on your favorite platform. That way we can tell those algorithms out there that the show is legit and it'll pass it along to more people. And then last but not least, maybe consider subscribing to the podcast so you never miss an episode in the future. It's fast. It's free. You could have done it right now. You did it. Perfect. You're good. We're done with that. Cool. All right. Let's get it. So as I was scrolling through TikTok one day before it was banned, was it before it was banned? Or after it was banned? No, it's definitely before it was banned. Before the crazy times. I think people are calling it BC TikTok. Back in BC TikTok, I was just scrolling, doing my thing, and I came across an obviously targeted ad for the single parent dating app Stir. I think this is an app specific. No, it is an app specifically designed for single parents to meet the potential love of their life, and it takes in consideration the fact that dating for single parents comes with some different challenges and things to think through compared to somebody who might be putting themselves out there in the dating world without kids. So I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. So me being the host of a single parent show, I was like, let me check this out. Because one of two things is going to happen, right? Either one, I'm going to get on there and I'm going to meet somebody and I'm going to fall madly in love. And then you're never going to see from me again because I'm going to be living on the beach with my bride. Or, and the more realistic option that was going to happen and did happen was that I would be able to check it out, kind of see what it's all about, and then talk about it on the show with you all, give a little review. And then that's what we're doing today. I didn't meet my bride. I'm not living on a beach. I'm here with you. So it's cool, though. It's cool. I'm excited to talk about this. So if you're watching the video version of the podcast, you can kind of see the look of it, my profile right there. Pretty standard dating app stuff. You know, you make the account, you tell it your age and your interest and all these different things. And so I set it up. Let me think back. I believe I've been using it for about 2 weeks. I just wanted to have a couple of weeks with it to see if I got any matches, to see how that whole thing played out. And so it's been a couple of weeks using it. And the first big thing I guess we'll start with do you want to start with the positives or the negatives? Let's start with the positives, okay? Let's start with the positives. The first big positive that I have, probably the biggest positive that I have about this app, is that it has a feature that allows you to put in your calendar availability. Because obviously with this being a dating app built with single parents in mind, it was really cool the fact that they took in consideration, hey, like we get that for some of you, when it comes to dating, you just don't do it, or can't do it rather, because you have your kids with you all the time or a majority of the time. And for you to go on dates, it's either one, it has to be when maybe the kids with their other parents, if you're co-parenting, or two, if you're just raising your kids completely solo, you got to figure out sitters, and that can get expensive, and it can be kind of challenging or with work and all that. So it's really cool that they acknowledged that reality, the fact that time is a big hindrance for a lot of SPs when it comes to dating. And it just said, hey, like, well, let's just assume you meet somebody on this app and you strike up a conversation when you want to hang out with them, you want to go on a date, you want to do whatever. What does your schedule look like? Let's just talk about that right off the jump. That way, the people who are going through your profiles and swiping and doing all the things, they can see right away, okay, I have this person's schedule for the most part when they will at least be free to go on a date. Looks like this person is only free on Saturdays. I can make that work. I'll swipe right. Or if this person can't do weekends at all, because maybe that's their only time with their kids and they can only do weeknights, and you're like, oh shoot, I work late on weeknights. I don't know if I'm going to swipe right. That person seems cool, but I just don't know if our schedules would align for this to even work. I'll swipe left. I think it helps to kind of think through that initially before you even decide to swipe, instead of swiping, matching with somebody, and then having to have those conversations later about, oh, well, when can you meet? Like, let's try this day. Oh, sorry, I can't do that. Well, how about this day? Oh, I work late. Or how about that day? Oh, my kid has gymnastics. So it was nice that they took that into consideration. I think the other positive I have is that the overall look of the app is pretty nice. It's pretty sleek. It's pretty straightforward. I've done and used dating apps before where I just feel like they just get overly complicated and all these little weird prompts and all these weird things that you have to navigate on people's profiles. Like, I just want to see what the person looks like. Tell me about themselves a little bit. Let me read the bio. Let me read some of the little get to know me prompts, but I don't want a million of those. I don't want to click a whole bunch of buttons to figure out who this person is. Like, I guess that is a positive, because I'm assuming, again, this being an app for single parents dating, maybe they just recognize the fact that we SPs don't have a whole lot of time to be swiping and trying to figure out a platform and doing this and doing that. Like, we got to log into the app. We have a few minutes here and there while our kid is doing something on their iPad, distracted for a few minutes. Okay, let me get on Stir before they get all up in my business again. Let me do a couple of swipes. It's easy, it's clean, it's sleek. I like that. All right, so those are the two big positives I would have about the app. The next thing I want to bring up is not even a negative or positive. It's just an observation, I guess I have. A question, something that the app made me think about that I didn't, I don't know. So so basically, when you're setting up your profile, you have your preferences, right? Like, what are you into? Like, are you attracted to males, females, both? Like, what are your preferences? All that sort of stuff. So the algorithm knows who to feed you when it comes to the profiles that it wants you to swipe on. And one of the options, though, was it was like, tell me about yourself, like what are your preferences? And then one of the account options that you could click to kind of help the algorithm understand you was, I don't have kids, but I'm interested in someone with kids. And I was just like, oh, huh. Like, number one, I thought this app was just for single parents to meet other single parents. Like, I didn't know even part of the app was designed in mind for people who don't have kids, who maybe specifically want to meet single parents. And then that's why I got to thinking. I was like, oh, is that a thing? Is it a thing for somebody to be completely kidless but have a single parent preference? Like, they're into that? Like, I don't want to say it's like a fetish, but maybe they just think single parents are hot in particular. So even though they don't have children, they want to pursue somebody with children. Is that a thing? Is there a name for that? Hold on. Let me look this up real quick. Yeah. So I just did 5 seconds worth of Googling. I just put in, what is it called when a childless person wants to date someone with kids? And it really didn't come up with any specific name or anything like that for a person. Maybe if there's not one that I'm just missing, we can come up with it. Here on the Single Parents Podcast, we can coin the term for a person who doesn't have kids but wants to date only people with kids. What are we going to call those people? Call them flamingos. We'll talk more about flamingos in a little bit. I don't know if that term is already taken for something else. I don't know. I guess common theme of the show. I should have done more research before actually bringing this up on the show. But yeah, comment. Let's figure this out. What do we call these individuals who have a preference for only dating single parents? I just thought that was interesting. I just didn't know that. I guess there's, what do they say? There's a pot for every lid or a lid for every pot. So maybe there are people out there who really just get turned on about the fact that, ooh, that person's a daddy. Ooh, I like the daddies. Or, oh, yeah, that mom over there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see the way she's giving her kids those fruit snacks. Mm-hmm. I don't, I don't know. I don't know. So I just thought that was just an interesting observation question I just had. I just didn't know that was a thing. Now for, I guess I didn't have a whole lot of negatives because it's a dating app, right? Like for the most part, like you've been on one dating app, you've been on them all, like you swipe, you read the profile. Like, yeah, some of them are set up and designed better than others and their algorithms might be better on others. But for the most part, if you get the gist of a dating app if you've been on one. So the big negative that I have about this app in particular is that it has a character minimum limit when it comes to writing your bio. So you have to write a certain amount about yourself for it to accept it as your about me bio. Because usually I do like I'm a single dad, or no, I do girl dad, van life enthusiast because I love van life stuff. Maybe I put something about the podcast. Maybe I love popcorn, so I usually put like popcorn connoisseur, something like that. Just like, bam, here's a few facts about myself. And then as we talk, I'll be more witty and goofy. But like, here's the gist of what you need to know. But to do that, it's like, I don't know, not that many words to do those 3 or 4 statements. So I tried doing that with Stir, and it said, nope, sorry, bro, you got to write more about yourself. You got to tell us more about yourself in order for us to count this. So this is what I ended up writing. I'll just read it to you. This is going to be embarrassing. I'll read it to you, and then you can maybe help me with my dating app bios, because I know there's professionals out there who know how to get people's attention when it comes to this stuff. So I'll just tell you mine, and you can roast me in the DMs or email me if you want. So I put girl dad, French bulldog friend, popcorn connoisseur, van life enthusiast, host of the Single Parents podcast. ... Basically, I drive my kids around as they live their life while I make cool stuff on the internet. I guess I don't know. I don't know. Maybe after reading it out loud, that's not the best dating app bio. But it lets you know a little bit about me. It lets you know I have a French bulldog, my boy Zeus. Lets you know I make podcasts. I'm a content creator. I'm a podcast bro, technically. Lets you know I'm a girl dad. So hopefully that tells you a little bit about my sensitivity and my mindset. I don't know, I do drive my kids around lots of places. I don't know though. Maybe after reading it out loud, it's not the best bio. Maybe that's why. That's going to lead me to my last point, the end result. So this is, I was thinking about just putting this part as a negative, but it's not really a negative. It's just a reality, I guess. It's not the app's fault that I don't know how to write a bio or I don't know how to take good pictures. But some of you might be like thinking, Anthony, all right, we heard your review. You said you were on it for 2 weeks. Get to it. We need to know. The big question, did you get any matches? Did anybody match with you? Have you been talking to anybody? You said you didn't find your bride, but have you been able to just get to know anybody at all? Any potential lovers from Stir? The answer is no. Nope. I didn't even get one match after a couple of weeks. I think there's a couple reasons for that. The big thing is I just don't know how big this app is at this moment. And it's also very niche. Like, it's specifically going for single parents, even though there might be, what do we call them, flamingos out there who want to date only single parents. They might be on the app. But so it's very niche. I don't think the app's super big. It's not like a Tinder or Bumble or anything like that when it comes to scope. And also, I live in like a smallish town / area when it comes to population, like a 40 to 50,000 person population area dynamic. And so you take the fact that the app itself's not very big, and then you take the fact that it's a very niche app for dating, and then you take the fact that I live in a smallish community, the options for the potential suitors who might be on the app and using the app in my area, there just wasn't a ton. Like, I did get people local, and there were some who I swiped right on. There's some who I just didn't, just preference wise. And then as I quickly went through the people in my immediate area, then the app kind of expanded out and got to different other semi close areas and towns near me. So I just for fun, just for the content, right? I just kept swiping and just to see if maybe this would be a long distance thing, but nope. Didn't get any matches. I didn't find my bride. No beach life happening soon. That's okay. That's okay, because at least I was able to check it out and let you all know my thoughts. And so if you want to give it a go, maybe you'll have better luck. Maybe you will find your future husband or wife through Stir. If you do, or if you've used it, or if you have any tips for dating apps in general, because obviously you saw my stuff, you know I desperately need help, then just let me know. You can shoot me an email, thesingleparentspodcast@gmail.com. That's thesingleparentspodcast@gmail.com. Speaking of dating apps, this next segment I actually want to talk about because I was talking to somebody on a dating app recently, and super cool. Not on Stir. Talked to her, met her through Tinder. Super awesome person, very smart, very, very kind person. I really enjoyed talking to her. But we were just talking through the normal, like, oh, tell me about you. What do you like to do? So on and so forth. And then it came up that I have the podcast, and she went and checked out the podcast. And maybe that was like, I don't know, probably, I don't know if that's an ick. Is dating somebody with the podcast an ick, ladies? Is that like a red flag? Because I know podcast bros could be kind of annoying and douchey sometimes, but I'm not one of those like alpha male women need to stay home in the kitchen all the time type of podcast bros. Like, hopefully you guys know that by now, so maybe I'm different, but I don't know if it's for all podcast bros. But anyway, she was asking me about these two. Well, if you're watching the video version of the show, you see me pointing to a couple of stuffed animal flamingos sitting right next to me. I have if you're just listening to the audio, couple of very bright pink flamingo toys that I usually have in the background of all of my videos. And she was like, oh, like, okay, well, why do you have those flamingos? What's up with that? And I got to thinking, I was like, oh yeah, like maybe I never really talked about that before. I don't think on the show. I just kind of randomly had them there. So maybe other people might have watched this through the video version of their podcast hosting platform or YouTube and wondered the same thing. So I was like, okay, I can talk about this for a sec. So long story short, when I originally started the show back in the day, just kind of doing it here and there as a hobby, I was just sitting on my couch, my old place I used to live at, just looking at the camera talking. And then as I started looking at how to grow and to bring people into a podcast and stuff like that, they just talked about the importance of having like a good background and making it visually aesthetically pleasing. And they were just like, hey, like even if you don't have a whole big setup yet, like at least have some color on there, something to pop, something to grab people's attention. So I was like, yeah, I just have my basic gray couch that I record on, and that might not be the most visually interesting thing in the world. So what do I have that can add some color to this? And I went in my girls' room because that's where all the colorful knickknacks and doodads would be in my house. And I found this big flamingo, this little flamingo. And I was like, okay, well, color-wise, they definitely have some color. Pink is good. And like it's cool because one of them's big, one of them's small, so it's kind of like a mom or a dad flamingo with their baby, but there's only one parent with the baby, so like it's like a single mom or single dad flamingo with its child. That kind of fits the show, right? And so I grabbed those, and then my kids painted me a couple of paintings telling me that they loved me I don't know, a while ago, and so I put those next to the flamingos to add some extra color as well. And that's pretty much it. Like nothing deep, nothing crazy when it comes to the flamingos. And eventually, though, because I had them in my background as I was thinking through like branding stuff for the show and coming up with the logo, I was like, well, let me just already take what I have in my videos, the flamingos, and incorporate that into the logo of the show. So that's kind of evolved over time to where we have the logo that we have now with the flamingo and her two babies. And so, yeah, that's the story of the flamingos. So I tell this person I was talking to on Tinder about this, and she's like, okay, that's cool, but did you know about what flamingos can stand for? And immediately I started getting nervous, and I was like, oh, shoot, did I pick an animal that's like gonna get me canceled or something? Like, is there something bad about flamingos, or what flamingos represent that I don't know? Like, are they a symbol for racist haters or bigots or something? Like, I was like, I don't know. And she's like, no, let me tell you about flamingos and what they can represent and how it actually might be appropriate for your show. I'm like, okay, do tell. And this is what she said. She said and I don't know where she got this. I guess I could ask her, but I just thought it was cool. So I was like, oh, I like this. I like this. So I don't know. I don't know where the context of this comes from, but I think it's cool. And it says this: the flamingo has many spiritual meanings, including balance, community, and self-expression. Balance. Flamingos can represent the need to find balance in your life, both within yourself and with the world around you. Flamingos can also symbolize the importance of surrounding yourself with things that you nourish. Community. Flamingos are social birds that live in large colonies. As a totem animal, the flamingo can represent the importance of community and collective effort. I don't really know what a totem animal is, but I like that. It's like, okay, that's cool. I'm glad I just happened to pick flamingos to be the mascot of this podcast, because I think we'll start with balance. Obviously, as a single parent, balance is very, very important, because not only do you have to balance life when it comes to your kids and schedules and finances and stuff like that, but it's important to make sure, like a flamingo standing on one foot, that you balance yourself and you take care of yourself and you center yourself, because as a single parent, there may or may not, depending if you're dating or anything like that, but like there may not be another adult in the home. And so like you have to do a lot of that self-encouragement, that self-reassurance, that self-mental health check-in yourself. So like again, on a flamingo standing on one foot, you have to be like, okay, I got this. I'm here. I'm present. How am I feeling? Am I okay? What's going on? What do I need to do? What do I need to assess? How are my kids? How's life? How's all that good stuff? So I think that's really cool. Flamingos can represent the need to balance your life. We talked about that. Flamingos can also symbolize the importance of surrounding yourself with things that nourish you. I think that's pretty cool, because again, if we're the only adult in our house, as we constantly pour out from our cup into our kids and into life, into a bunch of other things, we got to find what's life-giving to us, what's going to build us up, what's going to keep us motivated and going. And so to find things that nourish your mind, nourish your soul, nourish your body, super important. And another reason why it's very appropriate, because that's essentially why I started this podcast in the first place, is to give single parents out there a chance to come and hopefully get some encouragement, get some self-nourishment as they go throughout their week, so that they know that they're not alone in the different things that they have to endure and go through. And then lastly, flamingos are social birds that live in large colonies. It's a community effort, right, people? We talk about this. This is what I say at the beginning of the show. Share the podcast. Let's spread it around, because this is not about Anthony yapping for 40 minutes to an hour every single week. This is about us as a community, supporting each other, thriving together, sharing our stories, sharing our ambitions, reminding ourselves as a group that we are hot, we got this, we're killing it. As long as we're doing the best that we can to love our kids, to provide a safe and secure environment for them, to build them up and do the same stuff to ourselves, then that's awesome. Even on the hardest days, even in the loneliest days, even the days we want to give up, we as a community can come together and keep all of our heads held high as we remember we got this and we're doing our thing out here. So I just thought that was pretty interesting. I'm going to remember that. And then from now on, when somebody asks me like, hey, like, why do you have flamingos in your videos? Why is the flamingo the mascot for your podcast? Why is it on your logo? I'm gonna try to sound super smart and super intellectual and super deep and read the things that I just shared with you and pretend like I knew that the whole time. I came up with that from the beginning. Obviously, it wasn't just because these were the first colorful stuffed animals that I found in my grocer's room, and I could steal, not because of that at all. And now it's time to get into what we call Deeply Single. This is the deep end of the episode, to where if you've made it this far, we're going to get a little real. We're going to get a little intimate and just talk about ourselves as single parents, talk about I'll share some stuff about myself that I've been thinking through. So that's the purpose of the show. So thank you for sticking around and making it to this part. So if you're listening to the podcast, the day it actually comes out, it is the day after my 35th birthday. I know. I told somebody that the other day, and he started looking at me and he's like, bro, you do not look 35. I thought you were like 20 something. Like, what are you talking about? Or I think it's because he's like, oh, you have kids? I'm like, yeah, I have an 8 and 9-year-old. And he's like, how old are you? You do not look like somebody with an 8 and 9-year-old. Yeah, because I got those, if you're watching the video version, and yeah, you can see I got those good genes. Hopefully I'm looking all right at my age. I got some gray hairs, but hopefully I'm looking all right. So crazy, 35. And if you've been a long time listener of the show, especially listening for like a year, maybe you already know this because I talked about this last year, but my birthday for me always comes, well, used to come, I'll say, and I'll talk about more about this in a second, but it used to come with a lot of anxiety, with a lot of mental stress, because basically every time around my birthday for the last few years, I would approach that day, 28th of January, and I would kind of just do like a self-assessment of life and see like, oh, I'm another year older. What's going on in life? Like, oh, shoot, like I'm not making XYZ amount of money and I don't have this and we don't have a big house and my girls still need this and I didn't accomplish that. Or I remember being a kid and dreaming of this certain thing and it didn't come true. And now I'm in my 30s and I'm halfway through with life, even though that's not true. But I would think all these things, and my birthday would just honestly be a day where I just had a lot of anxiety. Like I honestly hated that day because it just stressed me out so much. So I knew that going into last year, 2024. And so I started doing some like mental health stuff to prepare for that day. Just a lot of positive affirmations and making sure I spent that day surrounding myself with positive people who could lift me up and encourage me. So last year wasn't so bad. But this year, leading up to this year, I was like, okay, do I need to start preparing to do some of those positive exercises again? Like, where am I at? My birthday's coming up. What am I thinking? How am I feeling? But this year was kind of different because, basically a few weeks ago, I was listening to another podcast and somebody on the podcast was talking about the idea of getting older and the years passing by and the same things I was describing, right? Like you just have this existential sense of maybe dread when it comes to getting older because you start thinking about mortality and life passing by and missed opportunities and all these different things. And he actually made an amazing point that I think he stole from somebody else, but an amazing point that I've really been thinking about the last several weeks leading up to my birthday. Here's how he broke it down. So think about the fact that let's just say somebody is blessed enough to live to 75 years old. Some people can live older for sure, but let's just say 75. Let's just keep it there for a second. So 75 years old. Now, if you do the math, you could break 75 years old, obviously, into 3 parts, 3 25-year parts. So you have 0 to 25, you have 25 to 50, 50 to 75. Simple math. And his point ultimately was, if you think about it, the exact same amount of time, 25 years, the exact same amount of time from when a baby is born, 0, newborn, to when a person is 25 is the exact same amount of time as somebody going from 25 to 50 or from 50 to 75. And he's like, well, why does that matter? Because think about it. For most of us who are older, for me being 35 now, we have lived the first third of that 75 years already, 0 to 25. But think about how much life happened in that 0 to 25 period. Well, think about all the things you did and learned and accomplished. Like, think of all the major life events from when you were a brand new baby to when you're a 25-year-old adult. You learn how to walk. You learn how to eat. You go through school. You maybe fall in love. You maybe go to college or start a business or get married. Or heck, maybe you even have kids of your own within that 25-year period. A lot happens between a baby and a 25-year-old. So much life. So why do we feel like our life might be older, or we might be done or washed up, or can't do new things, or can't start over in that 25 to 50-year-old period, or the 50 to 75-year-old period? It's the same exact amount of time as the 0 to 25-year-old, and look how much life happened in that span of time. But for some reason, we think, oh, just because I'm an adult, I have to have it all figured out now. I have to have the plan. I can't start over. I can't do anything new. He's like, no. You're in that 25-year period. A lot of stuff can happen. A lot of stuff can change. You can learn. You can have new relationships. So he's like, don't think about it as the fact for me that you're 35 years old. Think about it as the fact that you're only 10 years old in my case. 10 years old, because if I'm in this next 25-year span, 25 to 50, that would make me 35, the same state in that process as a 10-year-old in the 0 to 25-year-old span. Does that make sense? So I was thinking of myself as a 10-year-old, how much I had learned up to that point, but how much more life was coming my way from being a 10-year-old to a 25-year-old. All the stuff that happened to me in those 15 years. I learned how to drive a car. I got married. I think my first daughter was born around that time. I moved to a different town. I met so many new people. A lot of stuff happened from when I was 10 to when I was 25. So me, as a 35-year-old, I get to be excited about the next 15 years from when I go from a 35-year-old to a 50-year-old. So much stuff can happen that I don't even know. That's exciting, right? And then when I hit 50, oh man, now I'm 50 and my life was older. No, if I'm going and I'm blessed enough to get to 75, the clock starts all over. So I get another 25 years, just like the brand new baby, to experience so much. I hope I explained all that well enough for that to make sense, because it really did excite me when I heard that, and I thought about that, and I thought about myself as like a 10-year-old in that phase 2 of the 75 years. I mean, heck, you can even, if you're blessed enough to get to 100, then that means you get 4 of those 25 years worth of experiences and worth of things to figure out. And that's really cool. So this year, as I look to do more stuff with the podcast, to start a business that I'll talk about more in a couple of weeks, to see my girls grow and mature, like so much cool stuff can happen in the next 15 years before I hit 50 that I don't need to get myself down about the fact that maybe on paper I'm getting older, sure, but time-wise, in relation to time and how much time there is still to do stuff, I can still be excited for what the future has in store. It's not too late for me if I decide to start over or enter a new relationship or to reinvent myself or to learn more stuff about myself or to go out and try new things or to have new experiences, because just like a 10-year-old in comparison to a 25-year-old, there's still so much life to be had. You wouldn't tell a 10-year-old, dude, no, you figured it out, you're done. You can't make any changes. Like, no, you have to be exactly the same way you are as a 10-year-old for the next 15 years. Like, no 25-year-old looks exactly how they still looked when they were 10. And so me going to be a 50-year-old in the next 15 years, I shouldn't look the exact same as I do now as a 35-year-old. And I know practically some of you people who are very literal might be like, well, it's different because your body is aging and you've gone through a lot of experiences already compared to the newborn. So mental health wise, there's maybe trauma things that are playing a part. Like, I understand all of that. The point of that thought exercise was just to help me. It did help me, and maybe help some of you out there think about the fact that life's not over. You still got some time. You are, and we say this on the show all the time, even if you are a parent or older parent, that doesn't completely define you. That's not your entire identity. You are you, and you are made up of a lot of different realities and have different interests and different labels and all these things. A lot of stuff makes up you. And so as you grow, as you mature, as you continue on throughout the years, don't be afraid to make the changes you want to make. Don't be afraid to restart all over again. Don't be afraid to do something new for the first time. Don't be afraid to think about the fact that, hey, I might still have some more years ahead of me, and I don't want to waste those years thinking that I'm done, I'm washed up, I'm used goods, I can't do anything new with my life. Like, no, start something now. If you want to start that business, start it now. I don't care how old you are. You're still here, right? Okay, which means you still have time. You want to get into that new relationship? Okay, pursue that relationship. You want to go ice skiing down Mount Kilimanjaro? What's ice skiing? I don't know what ice skiing is. Wouldn't that just be skiing? I don't know what I'm saying, but you get the point. You get the point. So single parents out there, that really helps me a lot. I hope that encourages you. So I'm super excited now to step into a brand new year of life on planet Earth. 35. Cool. That's awesome. But there's still so much life to live and things to learn, things to explore. And I'm excited to do that myself. And I'm excited to share those learned experiences with you all here on the Single Parents Podcast every single week. So once more, make sure you are subscribed. Make sure you do have notifications on so you just continue to be a part of the journey. All right, everybody. Well, that's going to get ready to do it for this episode. I appreciate you tuning in yet again. One more time, my name's Anthony, and until next time, you all out there, just stay beautiful. Bye.